welcome to the deep dive. This is where we really get into those tangled knots, the complex character stuff, the relationship conflicts, and try to make sense of it all for you.
And today, oh boy, we're diving into a pretty big seismic shift, really, in the Forrester and Logan world, that central love triangle, Ridge, Taylor.
Uh,
It's always simmering, right?
Always.
But it's just been violently destabilized, and it's down to that one factor that always seems to crank the drama up to 11.
Thomas Forrester, he's back.
He's back.
That's right. Thomas is back in L.A. And he didn't just, wander back in. He arrived with this incredibly focused, singular mission.
Yeah, hyper-focused.
He wants to make sure his parents, Ridge and Taylor, finally get married.
Oh.
And not just get married, but stay married. The intensity is it's through the roof already. And the stakes feel really high for everyone.
They do. So our mission today, really, is to cut through the immediate plot points, what happened yesterday, what might happen tomorrow, and dive deeper into the psychology. We need to get a quick handle on these really intricate high-stakes dynamics.
Okay.
So that means unpacking Thomas's exact motivations, because they seem really rooted in this personal void he's experiencing.
Right.
Then we need to map out the bigger picture, the sort of family conspiracy that's kind of fueling his actions, maybe even justifying them in his mind, and ultimately assess the real danger level. What does Thomas's return actually mean for Brooke Logan? Is she in genuine peril?
And to do that, we've pulled our insights directly from, recent analysis, detailed character transcripts, plot projections, all focused squarely on Thomas, his first moves back in town, his mental state when he got here, and, the reactions, Ridge, Taylor, Brooke, the whole Logan crew.
Okay, so let's frame the central puzzle here. Thomas is back. He's laser focused on this wedding. He sees it as the ultimate solution to literally decades of family pain, right?
That's how he's framing it, yeah.
But here's the critical question, the one we have to keep asking ourselves as we go through this. Is his intense conviction actually justified by the facts as he believes them? Or is he basically setting himself up, and maybe everyone else in his family, for just a massive, catastrophic disaster when the real truth inevitably comes out?
Yeah, that gap, the difference between what he thinks is happening and what's actually happening, that feels like everything right now.
It really is.
So let's unpack that instability, where he's coming from. Let's start there.
Okay, so to really get why Thomas is so fervent, so, fixated on this mission right now, we first have to look at his psychological state when he landed back in L.A. He didn't exactly return as a, pillar of stability.
No, not at all. The sources paint a really clear picture of a personal crisis brewing. He actually described himself, didn't he, as feeling profoundly untethered.
Yeah, untethered. That's the word.
And there are some very specific practical reasons why his life suddenly felt kind of empty. We know, first off, the engagement to Paris Buckingham.
Yeah.
Totally done. Over.
Right, kaput. So that leaves a huge relationship void right there. Big gap.
And it's not just the romance. His professional life had kind of stalled too, hadn't it? He wasn't immersed in designing a new line at Forrester Creations, which historically, that's been a huge outlet for him, for his intensity, his creativity.
Absolutely. That's where he channels a lot of that energy, usually. And then there's Douglas, his son. Douglas is getting older now. He's hitting that age where he's more into his friends, his own life.
Right. He doesn't need that constant focused attention he did when he was younger.
Exactly. So it's like this triple vacuum, as you said.
Yeah. No partner, less focus at work, less intense parenting demands.
Right. And when a character like Thomas, someone with his specific history of, let's be honest, instability, when someone like that hits that kind of void, what do? They often look to fill it, and sometimes they fill it with external high-stakes drama that they feel they can control.
Yeah, something to manage, something to fix.
Racely. That emptiness is psychologically, toxic for him. He desperately needs something solid. He needs closure or a feeling of togetherness, a definite, permanent anchor point for his family.
And in his mind.
In his mind, Ridge and Taylor getting married, finally making it official and permanent, that's the only thing that can achieve that goal. It's the only thing that can fill that void for him. It's almost like it's not just about supporting them romantically. It feels like a therapeutic necessity for him to get some structure back.
Wow. Okay, and I think his reason for the Paris breakup is really telling, too, about his mindset right now. He didn't just say it didn't work out. He gave a very specific reason.
He did. He claimed her family is basically trouble, inherently trouble.
And he didn't just leave it vague, did he? He brought up history.
No, he specifically referenced Paris's mother, Grace Buckingham. Remember that awful calculated con she pulled on Liam and Bill Spencer years ago?
Vaguely, yeah. That was pretty fun.
He brought that up. And that detail, it's a crucial indicator, I think. It shows that Thomas is currently seeing relationships through this lens of, like, eliminating external threats.
Okay.
The Buckingham family, they represented chaos interference. So cut them out. Quick, decisive.
I see. And now?
And now he's applying that exact same lens, that same threat assessment model to the Logan family, specifically Brooke, but probably Katie and Donna too. They are the perceived external interference, the chaos that needs to be secured against.
So his path forward, in his mind, is crystal clear. He needs comfort. He needs confirmation for this worldview.
Makes total sense then, doesn't it, that his very first stop, immediately upon returning, was to go find his mother, Taylor. He went straight to her office at the hospital.
Looking for stability, looking for someone to validate how he's seeing things.
Exactly. And what did Taylor do? Whether she meant to or not, she basically fed right into it.
She framed the whole situation perfectly for him, didn't she? She told Thomas flat out that Brooke was actively, aggressively interfering with her engagement to Ridge.
Yep. Handed him his mission right there on a silver platter. Here you go, son. Protect me from the evil Brooke.
And this is where that critical gap in understanding starts to widen, right? The gap that makes this whole thing so dangerous.
Huge gap. Because Thomas, having been away, and maybe even Taylor, caught up in her own hope, they're operating under this really dangerous assumption.
Which is?
That the only problem here is Brooke. That Brooke is the sole obstacle. They don't seem to realize yet the full damning extent of Ridge's own role in this. His waffling.
Yeah, the sources are incredibly clear on this point. Objectively speaking, Ridge is fundamentally the biggest part of the problem here.
He is.
Because his commitment is it's faulty, internally faulty. He keeps waffling back and forth. And Brooke knows this. The Logans, they all know this is Ridge's pattern.
Absolutely no.
But Taylor and Thomas, they seem to be operating under this delusion that the relationship just needs, like, a security detail against an external villain.
Right. If we can just keep Brooke away, everything will be fine. They're missing the fact that the fundamental commitment from Ridge, it just might not be there. He hasn't truly made it.
And this blindness, it's not coming out of nowhere. It's driven by really deep-seated historical trauma, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And Thomas even articulated it directly to Ridge. He reminded him, didn't he? He said something like, Steffi and I watched you hurt Mom for years.
Yeah, that's not just a casual memory. That's like a profound shared sense of injustice. And probably a feeling of impending doom that history is about to repeat itself unless he stops it.
Exactly. That fear fuels their desperate desire for some kind of permanent resolution now.
And that historical weight, it just raises the stakes immensely. Thomas even brought up the most recent crisis, didn't he? That horrible broken heart syndrome Taylor supposedly suffered.
He did. He threw that right in Ridge's face. He warned him, basically point blank, you'd better not trample on Mom's heart again. Especially after she'd just supposedly recovered from that kind of physical trauma caused by him.
Wow. So that's the foundation. That's the mindset he's operating from. He didn't just come back for a visit.
No way. He came back to police his parents' relationship, to prevent what he sees as this inevitable, tragic repeat of history that's going to psychologically shatter his mother all over again.
So for Thomas, this isn't really about love or romance, is it?
Not primarily, no. It feels much more about settling historical debts and providing psychological protection for Taylor, and maybe, just maybe, finding some purpose for himself in the process.
Okay, so Thomas is fully charged up. He's got this singular mission.
Mm-hmm.
Make the wedding happen. Protect Mom from the Logan chaos machine. So what's his next logical step?
Go see Dad. Head straight to Forrester Creations, find Ridge. He's expecting to find a happily engaged father, maybe talking about wedding plans, ready to join the cause.
But the scene he walks into, it could have been more perfectly designed to just confirm all his worst fears and trigger those deep protective instincts he has.
Oh, absolutely. The sources say he was stunned. Just completely floored. A moment of profound shock, apparently.
Because he walks in and sees
Brooke Logan, openly embraced by Ridge, in Ridge's office.
Oof. Okay, we have to really put ourselves in Thomas's shoes here with his limited viewpoint. He believes the engagement to Taylor is happily on.
Right.
That's his operating assumption.
Correct.
He believes Brooke is actively trying to sabotage it. That's what his mom just told him.
Yep.
So walking in and seeing Ridge holding Brooke, from his perspective, what does that look like?
It looks exactly like cheating, or at the very least, Brooke successfully interfering, undermining his mother, proving Taylor right. It confirms his bias instantly.
It's the worst possible visual confirmation he could have stumbled upon.
Couldn't be worse. So, naturally, he doesn't just, back away quietly. He confronts Ridge immediately, demands clarity.
Right. He asks him straight up, doesn't he? Is the wedding to Mom still on?
Yes. And then he issues that warning again, stern, almost aggressive. Don't break Taylor's heart again because the whole family's counting on you, laying it on thick.
Okay, and here
Yeah.
is where Ridge just completely drops the ball. This moment is so revealing about Ridge's character, isn't it?
It's stunning. Ridge, the guy who supposedly values honesty, who gets so mad about secrets, he completely choked.
Instead of just telling Thomas the truth, look, son, it's complicated. I just told Brooke maybe we have a future. What does he do?
With, frankly, stunning cowardice.
Yeah.
He reassures Thomas. He basically tells him, yeah, things are fine. Don't worry. I'm not going to mess things up.
Wow.
He essentially lied by omission, a huge, damaging lie. He let Thomas continue believing the engagement was solid, that it just needed protecting from Brooke.
The sources really hammer this point home, the crushing irony of it all. Ridge promising not to mess things up.
When he'd already completely messed things up. By waffling, by making promises to Brooke moments after reassuring Taylor, or his kids, he'd already destabilized the entire situation.
It just speaks volumes about his inability to handle confrontation, doesn't it? He avoided the immediate discomfort of disappointing Thomas, who was clearly intense and focused.
Right. He dodged that awkward moment.
But in doing so, he guaranteed this monumental, delayed blowback for everyone down the line. He just didn't have the nerve, did he, to tell his own son he planned to dump Taylor.
Not a shred of nerve in that moment. And that failure, that specific lie of omission, it directly set the stage for the next crucial confrontation. The moment that really announced the return of, well, the dangerous side of Thomas.
Because after seeing the embrace, and now having been effectively lied to by his own father, Thomas goes straight for Brooke.
He does. And this confrontation, it wasn't private. There was an audience. Katie Logan was right there.
And apparently looking visibly shocked by how quickly things escalated.
Yes. Because this is the moment, according to the analysis, where we hear the voice of what the sources call Dark Thomas.
Okay, define Dark Thomas in this context. What did he do?
He didn't ask questions. He didn't try to understand. He delivered a non-negotiable, aggressive demand straight to Brooke.
Which was?
Essentially, Ridge is marrying Taylor, and you better not try and come between them ever again. The language, the tone, it wasn't a conversation. It was a threat, a declaration.
And Brooke's reaction confirms it, right? The jaw-dropping, the glare.
Oh, yeah. It confirms Thomas delivered that line with all the historical baggage, the ruthlessness, the vindictiveness we associate with his worst moments, his most manipulative schemes. He was telegraphing, don't mess with me.
Okay, so if we step back for a second and look at this whole interaction through the different perspectives, it's just a powder keg, isn't it?
Absolutely. Because from Thomas's point of view, his actions feel entirely justified.
How so?
Well, think about it. His dad just reassured him the wedding was on minutes ago. And then he literally saw with his own eyes what looked like concrete evidence of Brooke interfering. So confronting her, warning her off, makes perfect sense to him.
Okay, but Brooke, she's operating from a completely different reality.
Totally different planet. She's working under the belief that she and Ridge are, quote, basically reunited already, because Ridge had just made promises to her.
So from her perspective, Thomas isn't a protector. He's the same old meddler trying to sabotage her legitimate future with Ridge.
Exactly. She sees him as the villain here, trying to ruin her happiness.
And the actual reality, the objective truth that none of them, not Thomas, not Taylor, maybe not even Brooke, fully gets yet,
is that the core problem isn't the external interference, it's Ridge. It's his internal indecision. His constant pathological waffling is the central issue driving all of this conflict.
Wow. So that confusion, where everyone is absolutely convinced of their own highly subjective version of the truth.
That's precisely why this specific conflict is pretty much guaranteed to explode, and likely with maximum collateral damage to all the characters involved.
It's like a vicious cycle, and it's all built on Ridge's avoidance. And now Thomas is just pouring gasoline on that fire, thinking he's putting it out.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. He thinks he's the firefighter, but he's actually the arsonist.
Okay, so Thomas's intensity, it's not just coming from inside him, right? It's also being amplified by this perception he has, maybe correctly, that he's fighting a, quote, just war against a unified enemy front.
That's a really important layer here. The sources observe this, and honestly, the evidence on screen supports it. The Logans are basically all conspiring against Taylor.
It feels like a coordinated campaign sometimes.
It really does. And Thomas isn't just fighting Brooke in isolation. He's up against a pretty well-oiled machine. You've got the co-conspirators, Donna Logan, Katie Logan.
And don't forget Eric Forrester, who, in this dynamic, basically functions as the powerful, influential, honorary Logan, right?
Absolutely. He throws his weight behind Brooke consistently. They are all actively campaigning for her, supporting her position, pressuring Ridge to go back to her.
So for Thomas, seeing this perceived imbalance, it makes his role as Taylor's champion feel absolutely vital, especially with Steffi out of town right now.
Exactly. Steffi's usually his partner in this, right? His backup. Without her there, he sees himself as the lone defender, the focused protector standing against this coordinated attack on his mother.
And, it does raise a question of fairness, analytically speaking. If the Logans are allowed to aggressively fight for Brooke's relationship with Ridge, throwing parties, applying pressure,
right,
does Taylor not deserve someone fighting just as intensely for her, someone focused on her happiness, her relationship's security?
It's a valid point. From Thomas's perspective, that perceived fairness completely justifies his own extreme actions. They're doing it, so I have to do it harder for Mom.
And this whole dynamic of family interference, it gets even more complicated and, frankly, kind of hypocritical when we look at that conversation between Ridge and Eric.
Oh, that was something else. Ridge, clearly stressed out by all the pressure, he goes to his dad, Eric, and tells him about Thomas pressing him really hard to marry Taylor. Like, immediately.
And Eric's initial advice actually sounds reasonable, doesn't it? He says, don't let Thomas tell you what to do.
Yeah, sounds like good parenting 101.
Yeah.
Respect his autonomy.
But then, the whiplash.
Yeah.
The expert analysis points out this immediate staggering hypocrisy that follows right after.
It's incredible. Eric pivots instantly from don't let others influence you to let me influence you.
He literally follows up his own good advice by saying effectively, okay, but now let me tell you what to do. Go back to Brooke.
It's like Eric believes he's exempt from the rules he applies to his kids.
We have to pause on the irony here.
Yeah.
Eric genuinely seems to believe it's perfectly acceptable, maybe even righteous, when he tries to dictate Ridge's romantic fate. Why?
Because in Eric's mind, he knows best. He knows what's best for Ridge. He sees his own influence as wise guidance, fatherly concern.
Whereas Thomas's influence is seen as
manipulative pressure, dangerous interference. It's a total double standard.
And Ridge sees it, doesn't he? To his credit, in that moment, he actually called his father out on it.
He did. He pointed out the obvious contradiction. Dad, it's the same thing you're doing right now.
That's revealing. It shows that Ridge, despite his constant waffling and inability to commit, he is acutely aware of the insane external pressures being placed on him from both families.
Oh, he feels it. He just lacks the backbone, apparently, to defy any of them directly, which is why he resorts to lying by omission, placating whoever is in front of him.
And we can probably connect Eric's behavior here to his own long history, right? Eric himself has waffled endlessly in his own relationship.
For decades.
And interfered constantly in his children's lives. He doesn't see himself as a meddler. He sees himself as the wise patriarch guiding the family ship.
Exactly. Which makes his advice to Ridge about not letting Thomas tell you what to do ring completely hollow. It's pure hypocrisy based on his own track record.
So this whole exchange just perfectly encapsulates the central conflict, doesn't it? Everyone in this orbit, Logans, Forresters, now Thomas, intensely back in the mix. They all believe they possess the moral authority, the clarity to decide Ridge's future for him.
Yeah. And Thomas is simply the most dangerous advocate right now because he's operating from that position of deep personal instability. He desperately needs this win, this marriage to happen to give his own life some meaning and purpose again.
He's channeled all that recent emptiness, that untethered feeling, into this one high-stakes, family-defining mission.
And the fact that the entire Logan clan, plus Eric, is actively pressuring Ridge the other way, that just gives Thomas the perfect psychological justification he needs for his own escalating tactics. It becomes a righteous crusade in his mind.
Okay, so this brings us to the really critical analysis. Given Thomas's history, which is checkered, to say the least, given his current state of instability and this incredibly clear mission he's on, the question isn't really if he'll act against Brooke. It feels like it's how he'll act.
Exactly. And the bottom line question, should Brooke Logan be genuinely afraid? What kind of threat does he actually pose?
Well, the sources indicate that Taylor herself is worried. That's a big clue.
It is. That conversation she had with Lee Finnegan, they touched on Thomas's past issues, didn't they?
Yeah. And Taylor specifically said she'd hate for him to have a setback.
A setback? That's code, right? That's a massive red flag coming from his own mother. It signals to us, the audience, that the character is psychologically primed for a dangerous regression, especially if his primary mission, getting Ridge and Taylor married, fails.
And we can probably pinpoint the most likely trigger for that kind of setback, can't we?
I think so. The analysis suggests Thomas would absolutely lose the plot and go nuts. That's the phrasing used if, or maybe when, he finds out the ultimate truth.
The truth that Ridge lied to him.
Worse than that. The truth that Ridge did, in fact, tell Brooke he was going to dump Taylor and get back with her. Right after reassuring Thomas, everything was fine.
Oof. Yeah, that revelation would instantly change everything in Thomas's eyes, wouldn't it?
Completely. It transforms Brooke from just being a persistent meddler into the successful destroyer of his mother's happiness. The person who made Ridge broke his promise again.
And in Thomas's warped logic, that would justify almost any extreme measure he might take in response.
It would feel like righteous vengeance to him. But when we analyze his specific historical pattern of behavior, what kind of measures are we talking about?
This is key. The analysis strongly suggests, and our sources confirm, that physical harm is highly unlikely. That's just not his pattern of behavior.
Right. He doesn't tend towards physical violence against adults, typically. His danger is much more insidious, psychological.
So the real danger to Brooke isn't a physical threat, it's psychological and reputational. His primary target, based on past actions, will be doing something to make Brooke look bad to Ridge.
Exactly. Undermining her moral standing, making her seem unstable or even dangerous to Ridge's well-being or the family's well-being. That is the proven playbook for Dark Thomas.
Okay, let's really define Dark Thomas based on those actions, because just saying he's ruthless isn't specific enough. What does Dark Thomas actually do?
Right. Dark Thomas isn't just angry Thomas. It's the manifestation of that really manipulative boundary-crossing behavior. And it seems fueled by those deep-seated childhood abandonment issues he has.
Which get triggered when?
When he perceives a major threat to his core family unit, specifically Taylor, when he feels his stability or his mother's stability is being violently compromised by an outsider, like Brooke, that's when he acts, crossing lines others wouldn't.
And we have some incredibly specific, historically damaging examples of his past schemes that show just how far he'll go. It's way beyond simple conflict or argument.
We do. Two stand out as prime examples of his capacity for deep psychological manipulation.
Okay, first example.
Years ago, remember he let Ridge believe that he and Brooke had slept together?
Oh, vaguely. That was twisted.
It wasn't just a simple lie, yeah, we slept together. It was a calculated setup, designed purely to discredit Brooke's character, destroy her moral authority in Ridge's eyes. It attacked her reputation and Ridge's fundamental trust in her word.
Nasty stuff. Okay, what's the second, more recent example?
The CPS call scheme. This one was arguably even more dangerous and complex.
Right, the Child Protective Services call. He framed Brooke for that, didn't he?
He did. And it wasn't just telling a lie, it was a whole operation. He faked the call using Douglas's voice-changing application.
Oh, okay. We need to unpack the mechanics of that one for a second, because that really highlights his cruelty and his, technical sophistication and manipulation.
It does. He used an innocent child's voice, his own son's voice, to create an official-sounding complaint against himself, framing Brooke.
Ensuring the lie would hit Ridge on two incredibly sensitive fronts at once.
Exactly. Parental guilt, thinking Brooke would endanger a child, and the idea of emotional abuse, using a child's voice against their parent.
And that specific tactic was engineered to work so effectively on Ridge.
Because Ridge is fiercely protective of his kids, right?
Yeah.
And he's highly sensitive to any accusation of parental failure or someone hurting his family. By weaponizing Douglas's voice, Thomas made the lie feel incredibly authentic and emotionally devastating. It instantly painted Brooke as an immediate threat in Ridge's mind.
That kind of ruthlessness. It just shows his ability to play the long game, to use the people closest to him, even his own child, as props in his scheme to isolate Brooke.
It's chilling, really. And here's a key factor that's amplifying his focus right now. His personal life is currently untethered.
Right, we established that. Paris is gone.
Hope seems preoccupied with other guys.
The Finn.
Yeah.
Okay. So Thomas has, according to our sources, lots of energy to focus squarely on this mission. There are fewer distractions for his intensity.
So Brooke should be worried.
Yeah.
Because he's singularly dedicated now to making sure she cannot get in the way of his one objective. that wedding.
Precisely. So her worry needs to be kind of twofold, right?
Okay, what's the first prong? First, the direct targeting. The possibility of a new, maybe even more technologically sophisticated manipulation. Something like the CPS call, aimed at public humiliation or instantly discrediting her in Ridge's eyes.
Okay, that's the overt threat. What's the second, more insidious one?
The slow burn. Thomas influencing Ridge through sheer guilt and pressure.
Because Ridge lied to him.
Exactly. Since Ridge was too cowardly to tell Thomas the truth about planning to dump Taylor, that lie of omission, it's now a massive weapon. Thomas knows Ridge lied, or will find out he lied, and he can and absolutely will wield that. He'll press on that guilt constantly. Dad, you promised Mom, you promised me, you looked me in the eye. Forcing Ridge to continually prove his commitment to Taylor just to cover his earlier lie.
That's intense pressure. And if we connect this to the bigger family picture, Thomas probably won't be operating alone and applying that pressure for long, will he?
Highly unlikely. He's almost certainly going to find a powerful tactical ally in Steffi.
Right, because when Steffi inevitably finds out that Ridge promised Brooke a future,
literally minutes after promising Steffi he would never break Taylor's heart again.
Especially considering Taylor's recent broken heart syndrome trauma that Steffi is so worried about.
Steffi will be, quote, furious, absolutely livid.
And the united front of Steffi and Thomas? That's a formidable force against Ridge.
It's a double threat, really. Steffi brings a certain legitimacy, strategic thinking, and maybe even CEO power.
And Thomas brings the raw intensity, the willingness to cross lines, the ruthless execution.
Their combined goal will be crystal clear. Intensify the pressure cooker around Ridge, pile up the guilt, make his waffling position completely, utterly untenable, force a choice.
So Thomas's best case scenario right now, the goal of his scheming, is basically leveraging Ridge's shame and his fear of confrontation over that lie of omission.
To force him immediately down the aisle with Taylor, preferably before Ridge can waffle back to Brooke again.
It's not just about protecting his mother anymore, is it?
No. It feels like it's about fighting to prove that his own life has meaning by achieving this one definitive family-altering goal. His mission is now about control and personal validation, far more than it is about love. Hashtag, tag, outro.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive, I feel like it's really laid bare the stakes here. We've got Thomas starting from this really unstable emotional place.
Yeah, that untethered feeling.
Seeing this shocking scene, that embrace, through the really painful lens of decades of history.
And his own biases, yeah.
And basically resurrecting the playbook of Dark Thomas to fight what he sees as this totally justified war against the perceived Logan conspiracy.
And the bottom line threat assessment seems clear. The high probability is a focused, manipulative scheme aimed at deep psychological warfare against Brooke, targeting Ridge's weak spots, not likely physical danger.
Right. And understanding those psychological mechanisms, why Thomas is doing what he's doing, it really helps you predict the kind of moves he's likely to make next.
Absolutely. He's aiming for maximum impact on Ridge's conscience, on Brooke's reputation. He's trying to force an outcome in the wedding that he probably can't guarantee through genuine emotion alone.
Despite all this scheming, all this pressure, all this history, the course material did offer one final, really powerful, provocative thought. Something that kind of cuts through all the noise of the manipulation and the conflict.
Yeah, that reference to the old Bonnie Raitt song.
I can't make you love me.
That's it. And that really is the ultimate inescapable reality check here, isn't it?
How so?
Well, if Ridge truly, deep down, does not love Taylor the way he loves Brooke, if his heart fundamentally belongs elsewhere, then no amount of outside pressure, no ruthless scheming by Thomas, no matter how clever, and no amount of guilt piled high by Steffi and Thomas, none of it can actually force that wedding to happen in a meaningful way, or make that marriage stick if it does. You can't force love.
So here's where it gets really interesting looking ahead. The ultimate, most volatile variable in this whole equation. It isn't Thomas's scheming. It isn't Brooke's resilience. It isn't even Taylor's hope.
No, it's the object of all their conflict. Ridge's deeply conflicted, constantly waffling heart.
So the truly provocative question is, what happens when Thomas, who has invested all his personal stability, all his energy, his entire sense of purpose right now into this one mission, what happens when he finally inevitably realizes that his life-defining goal is fundamentally doomed?
Doomed by the one thing he absolutely cannot control no matter how hard he tries.
His father's true, genuine feelings.
Exactly, that realization, the sheer futility of his attempts at control when faced with genuine emotion. That could be the biggest psychological crisis Thomas has ever faced.
Way bigger than the breakup with Paris or feeling untethered.
Oh yeah. It sets the stage for potentially a spectacular emotional collapse if or when his mission fails, because it forces the focus away from controlling others.
And towards finally confronting his own trauma, his own need for control.
Potentially. And that, well, that's a deep dive for another day.